Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Thanks for all the support, all the likes, comments, shares, subscribes. This is gonna be my weekly Sunday night wisdom teaching. So probably not gonna draw cards tonight. Maybe we'll draw an oracle card. But deep spiritual truth, occultic truths. I spent a long time meditating today, and I want to let you guys know why it's so important. To at least incorporate that in some kind of practice. We'll get into that. As most of you know, we live on a prison planet, but in a lot of ways, people don't understand the prison, how that's set up. So we're going to work on that today. Tell you guys exactly why it's a prison planet and how that prison planet is implemented. Nose is itching. Somebody's probably, who knows, right? So, how is it implemented? I mean, basically, you're dealing with a group of emotionally intelligent vampires who run everything, right? Because you're just feeding off people's emotional states. It's pretty commonly understood, right? If you're speaking in front of a large crowd, there's a lot of projected positive energy towards you if people are supporting you. So there's an addiction there, right? Towards a lot of energetic projection that you're just siphoning all this energy. Now, that's because people get addicted to the energy that's being projected at them. There's a reason why the teachings of Ascended Masters are to put yourself in service to people altruistically. And I can explain that. And we'll begin with that because I think it's important to understand what that process does to yourself, how it awakens your subconscious and actually makes you way more aware of how you're creating off your emotional states. It also explains how energetically this vessel can be fed off of, which makes it grow older. So in our normal day activities, if we're doing stuff that we don't want to do, we just aren't happy, right? Like if you go to work and you're doing a job that you don't like to do, you're generally unhappy, right? So if you quit your job and you put yourself in service to other people, for one thing, the first thing you have to learn is to control your own emotional states to make sure that you are providing positive emotional states for the people around you. Otherwise, the energy that you put out there is what you get back. So if you're not putting positive energy out there, you're not getting positive energy back, right? That's step one. Now, step two, when you're doing that altruistically, right, you're doing this, you're not charging money. And it's important why you're not charging money. If you charge money for a service, you have to put somebody in a state of lack emotionally and mentally in order to purchase a product from you. That's why the system we live in that's based on sales and selling something creates that prison system. It creates a hierarchical order of people feeding off of each other emotionally, right? You'll see that within a business, even a hierarchy of a business. You look at a bigger business structure, you're looking at a hierarchy where people are being fed off of emotionally, right? Either you think, why am I not making as much money as this person, right? You have people doing less work just in the interest of controlling someone else's energy and then taking more of it, right? If I started a business and I started wanting 30 people to work for me, I am basically siphoning the energy off of their work, especially if I'm just managing it all and I'm the one in charge of all that, right? That puts a lot of stress on me. Plus, I'm forcing those people into a lower energetic state. Pretty toxic. So, knowing that you'll end up triggering your environment a lot, right? If you're not working in equality. Show me some examples where people are working in healthy co-ops. There are a few examples out there. For example, And I don't know if there's one like this in the area, but like, let's say you had 100 HVAC workers that were installing HVACs, uh, and they all knew how to do it. They all knew how to service it. They were all co-owners of the business, right? All they're doing is doing service calls. And so, but if they didn't like that work, a lot of times, since they still might be in a lower energetic state, but at the same time, they all have the same self-worth for the most part, right? I mean, all of us, a lot of times are better at some things than other things when it comes to like working with their hands and things. But it all has to do with focus and making sure you're in the right energetic state for yourself, right? You're not thinking negatively about yourself and things like that. Because this is just a vessel. If you're identifying with the vessel, it's always going to put you in some kind of different energetic state, and you'll see a difference of potential between you and someone else. Just another vessel. It's actually not someone else. It's you being projected through another vessel, and that vessel is only able to project its level of own understanding. So that's the whole dark side of the tree, right? Of the tree of life. Everything on the dark side is seeing itself as separate, and so it's feeding off of each other emotionally in some way. And so there's a head of that tree where all of that energy siphons to. That's why this physical reality, you'll see so many things feeding off of each other in so many different ways. Skin parasites, right? It's just everything in the physical starts in the non-physical. So it's just a representative of a very tiny, you could say it's a demonic thing, right? It's simple. It's just something where you've got wasted energy somewhere in the body that something's feeding off of, because energy cannot be created nor destroyed, right? It just goes from one place to another. So if you're thinking, like if you have a fearful thought of what like might happen tomorrow and you're not present, that's wasted energy. There's an entity that feeds off that energy. So depending on your level of fear, depending on what size of entity can feed off of it, right? I mean, the bigger entities are going to want to instill the most fear to get to consume the most energy, which is why that is why this is a prison planet in a lot of ways, because it's just hierarchies of feeding, right? And money creates that hierarchy, because in order to you have to create a negative state of need and want, people not understanding that they are the creator of their own emotional states and state of being. If you ever feel like you have need or want of something, then you're just in a negative state. Something is feeding off of that energy. So you have to feed off of your environment it's just an energy transfer from one thing to another. That's why fasting is so important, because you will break down through emotional attachments, because eating in a lot of ways is an emotional attachment. I have a feeling of hunger, but that the body and the mind can't tell the difference between hunger and a lot of other emotional states. So when you're breaking that stuff down, your body you're forcing yourself into be much more conscious of the body, and you'll start recreating the body from the inside out, creating more of a light body. Yeah. So that being said, and I was talking to my girl about this earlier, a question that was asked and that I totally agree with, and we talk about it every once in a while, is that when you get to a state where you're super self-aware, for one thing, your energetic field expands and you're starting to feel a lot of different emotional states. I mean, I can pin down probably 5 different emotional states usually, especially if I'm doing readings or when I wake up in the morning. If this is just a vessel, right, and you're accessing the field, you're feeling the different emotional states of the people around you. It could be jealousy, envy, guilt, sadness, whatever. For me this morning, I had a dream last night. I had a dream that I got a call from a professor. They were in Florida for some reason, and I don't know why I remember that they were from Florida, but they called me saying, hey, they just poo-pooing the book that I just wrote, right? There is only one heart. You can get it on Amazon. We're going to defame you, we're going to tell you that you're worthless and all this stuff. Now, my personal opinion is that was probably a projected energy. For one thing, if you've got people that are teaching people how to get out of the slave system that we're under, it's not in their best interest for you to keep talking, right? You want to drive the confidence level down. So that's being actively done in our environment, probably to thousands of different people. Because, with current technology, it's not hard to imagine why somebody would want to do that, right? So literally, we're in a non-physical battle. That's what it is. So that point aside, now putting yourself in service to other people, puts you in that non-physical battle within the self, right? No, it's all self-knowledge. And then you'll see yourself go through different emotional states and bleeding off negative emotions. And a lot of times those are all just projected emotions. I was reading someone's comment on a LinkedIn post a while back about how they were, it had something to do with somebody else's behavior, and then they were really upset for a little while. If you ever blame yourself on somebody else's behavior for the way you're feeling, you're not taking accountability for the way you feel. Technically speaking, you're a creator. Now, if you're feeling another person's energy, that's one thing, and then, noticing how an emotional state that somebody else might be feeling. But if you are identifying with that, it's just an emotional state. You're a creator and natural attractor. So you're ignoring the fact that you're a creator if you believe in any way that somebody can negatively impact your emotional state. Now, I'm sure a lot of what ifs are going to come out when I say stuff like that, right? What if somebody's got a gun pointed at you, or blah, blah, blah. You attract the things that you are afraid of, right? So if you have a fear, you'll attract those things. That being said, once you get to a certain place where you can create any state of emotion that you want, it doesn't matter what anything else is happening around you, in a lot of ways you will feel like an alien, right? Now, the YouTube readers that we have now, tarot readers, they're acting as conduits and just drawing cards and basically just kind of feeling where the group collective is at. And I think that's going to go away here pretty soon. And there's a reason why I believe that. For one thing, if people all constantly have to come to a YouTube channel to try and get advice or, it's not a big deal to get, to understand that you're going in the right direction. Oh, this person knows what I'm going through. It's good, but if you're constantly trying to seek validation that you're a chosen one or something like that, there's going to be a lot of the population that are going to ascend inequality, right? There's no such thing as, I'm a divine being and you're not. That just, right? And so a lot of times you'll see, the way things are worded, especially on YouTube videos, just to attract viewers, because then that, there's some dysfunction there. And eventually, if the grid ever goes down, then those jobs go bang, bye-bye anyway. The last thing I want to do is become a lifelong reader on a YouTube channel where all I'm doing is, in a lot of ways, you help people at certain stages of development, which is great. But at the same time, if we're not working together to build the society that we want to live in, then what are we doing? I would ask that question directly. And actually, I was a little bit heated today when I was talking to my girl, because there's a lot of public figures out there, and I even have family members that don't point people towards me. Will point to people like, feel free to share this video with someone like, Jordan Peterson, right? Any of these big figures, right? They're out there trying to do their best, to try and talk about psychological states and things like that. But unless we are building inequality in a natural organism, then what are we doing, right? I mean, I would love to be the guy that just somebody tells me, hey, look, somebody's finally doing this over here. Let's say, pick me up. That's all I need to know. I mean, the last thing I need is to become a big public figure, to be pointed at, right? To be this is the one in charge of it. But that eventually you end up attracting so much negative energy, especially when you're triggering everybody in your environment, when you're trying to get people aware of these facts, when nothing's being healed. That's why we don't have any mystic healers in our midst that are actually healing each other, like raising people from the dead, things like that. And I have a lot of respect for, especially, you know, I have a local pastor, and that's just a conversation that I've had with him before. And he's one of the people that I've met that understands this. David Eba was one years ago, that you cannot charge money for healing. And the reason is because you're always going to put somebody in a lower energetic state and lift yourself up above that person. You and I are one, just like the Father and I are one. When I say the word Father, I mean Father, Mother, God. Actually, it's before masculine or feminine. It's the zero state. The zero state right here in your heart space, because that's before thought, right? That's the zero state where everything breaks down to. You have to have an open door there in order for, and then all you get to a place is all you have to do is ask. So I'm always in a state of asking, right? I always need your help, but you're always in a state of submission. You know, I'm always in a state of just doing what I'm told. Like, I felt like I was told to do this specific talk today. I just started watching a video about the Rosicrucians and the secrets of the occultic order of the Rosicrucians, and how they were supposedly trying to illuminate, you know, to get to, you know, humankind into a higher state. And then they kind of referenced a lot of Paul's writings, where Paul talks about the secrets of Christ cannot be taught to most people, because you know, most people need milk. The meat aren't meant for many, which I would disagree. I would say the meat are meant for everyone, and people can choose their own path. Now, they might have had their own reasons for that, to say that, but unless you can speak the truth, then what are you, right? I mean, if I'm afraid of speaking my truth, then I am hiding something from you. That makes me an occultist. I'm out in the open. If somebody doesn't like what I have to say, great. Challenge me. Tell me what you think is better, right? If you found a way to free yourself from this prison system, tell me at what level that you have freed yourself. Have you ascended to a higher consciousness where you can manifest a physical body in and out of this three-dimensional space? That's something that I want to know about, right? Or let's say, okay, I've attracted $100 million in wealth. All the wealth I could possibly imagine. I'm traveling all over. Okay, well, how are you sharing that with the people around you? How are you freeing other people? Because if you had to feed off of other people to get to that state, you're no better than anybody else. You're probably using occultic principles to feed off each other, off somebody else emotionally. Not healthy, right? You're not healing your environment. You're pulling energy from it so that you have more energy at your disposal. That's what all that cash is. And that's why there's a hierarchy. That's why you see a pyramid of people with different amounts of money. So it'll always be that way as long as you keep using that system. So the only way out of it, and I loved, Donna, you reminded me of A Bug's Life. If you watch the show A Bug's Life, where Flick, you know, our main hero, is kind of a klutzy doofus, you know, inventor type guy. And they ended up freeing them. The only way that they could free themselves is by banding together to overthrow, I think, the grasshoppers, right? Because the grasshoppers were the ones that were controlling them, or they were the ones keeping them at bay. But as soon as they started working together, right? And the only people that are going to be able to work together in a healthy way are going to be the people that have mastered themselves emotionally. Not only that, but to be able to heal any situation, right? So this is where we're going as far as mystic healing goes. When you can master your own emotional state, and I can create whatever emotional state I want, and at the same time feel what's going on in someone else's body. That's how you can block demonic energies, pulling energy off the body, because somebody's thinking, they don't realize that, but they're creating something in their own biofield where an entity is able to pull off them, blocking that, and then at the same time creating and lifting up a positive energetic state in that person to create a positive healing. Reiki only does that so far. All you have to do really is believe and become a conductor, right? Ask and you shall receive. That's how you heal. You can heal anybody of anything. And I've both heard and saw amazing healings in my life and church systems, because those are not based on money. It's based on belief. But they always have a limited effect, because usually they're using somebody else's name as the healer. They're not believing that they are the ones healing, right? So you can use, Jesus or another ascended master as a conductor for a healing, but ultimately, if you're believing in somebody else versus yourself, then you're always pulling yourself in a lower energetic state, if that makes sense, right? You are the creator of your own thoughts and emotions. And so mastering yourself every day in, day out, will slowly starve out energetic feeding off of your biofield, because something's feeding off of wasted energy. If you're worried about tomorrow, if you're worried about what's going to happen, in the next minute, if you're not present, right? You're always in the present moment, never worried about what's going on, just creating whatever state of being you feel like you need to be in. Very difficult to do when you're doing things altruistically. That's why mastering the self is so powerful, and why I wrote that self-discovery manual that's on my website. So, and that's, what I felt was best way to try and, support myself, especially for the channel, right? Because I like to give you guys something in return if you guys want to support me, and I appreciate the support, right? And at the same time, I would love to talk to, have somebody help me, or hear about somebody else starting a co-creative group where we're creating things for each other. That's structured correctly so that you can block negative energies, feeding type energies, and create a natural, loving atmosphere. I mean, there's nothing that I would love more than to be able to work with you guys, and once you guys, the right people who are mastered in the right state, and work with them in a co-creative setting where, if we're all working in equality and there's no stress trying to get to some other job, and you're just doing what you're asked, you probably work 15 hours a week, I would bet, at most 20 hours a week, and the rest of the time you're just doing what you want to do with your family and your significant other. And all of us want to work with people who have mastered themselves in their state of being. And that's actually what we're seeing in the group collective. That's why what you're seeing, and there's a reason why everything's happening, right? Bitcoin's going up because people are abandoning the dollar. As the dollar loses value, it's creating a ripple effect in all the other currencies. And so there's more and more people that are falling into states of depression, that are bleeding off negative energy in the group collective. And so there's a whole hierarchy of people in a state of self-knowledge. And so you can go to different readers, you can go to different tarot card readers, and how they're treating people at different levels of that pyramid. But you have to start teaching people that they are the creator of their own emotional states. Nobody can negatively affect your emotional state unless you let them. That's one thing that I appreciate so much about you, Donna. I love you so much. Because when you've been in service to people who are in a really bad way for a long time, it forces you to have to be able to do that. You have no choice. You lose your sanity if you don't, right? If you imagine somebody who is treating somebody who mentally disabled for a long amount of time, you have to get to a place where you're good no matter what, right? And you have to set strong boundaries. Like, I need time for me today. It's not your time. This is my time. All right. So I hope this helps you guys understand a lot of what's going on out there. I'm not exactly sure what else I should be telling you guys. You guys are smart, and I know the viewers of this channel are pretty sharp. You guys feel to me like you're like one of me, right? So, I had no option. I would have loved to be able to just partner with, and I think this is what the 144,000 are, right? That initial 144,000 people are those first people that have healed themselves. Create a group, and everybody's going to slowly get attracted to that as they heal. Because at first it's going to be too scary for a lot of people, right? Because you're not trying to feed off of each other energetically. Most people are used to saying that it's this person's fault for the way I feel, and they need to apologize to me. But the reality is the only person you ever have to forgive is yourself. If you can't forgive yourself, then you're never going to forgive anybody else. And then once you see everything from a higher perspective, there's nothing to forgive because everyone's just growing. And so this is the two pillars of severity that you will live under, right? When you're standing in the middle, blocking all of those people who are still kind of feeding off of each other in a negative emotional way, and then offer healing and partnership to the rest. And then we're living on, that's when the split happens and everything separates. Yeah. It has to be that way. It's always that way, right? It will always be that way. At the end of every large cycle like this, there'll always be a cleansing. When the body cleanses, your body flushes out all the dead tissue, and then new tissue forms. It's always that way. And it's not the end of the journey for that tissue. That energy is never destroyed. It's just part of a long journey of the soul. So even the soul is just part of the tree somewhere, right? Everything comes from source. Everything comes from, the God, goddess, or the 0 point. But there are, we all have souls, and our soul is part of a long journey that comes from source. And it's just, I don't know what you'd call it, the causal body, the astral body, or the spirit body, right? I mean, there's so many levels of structure and field, because that's what all those are. All those descriptions are either structure or field. Like you're looking at a structure, and there's a field of an emotional state around me that you guys can probably figure out, right? And controlling that's the masculine part, is the controlling of the emotional state. That's the attractive portion, right? The magnetic portion, that the way that we all want to feel. And we all want to be around people who are in a constant state of love, right? It's so much easier to be around somebody that's projecting love all the time instead of conflict. I think I've said about as much as I can about that tonight. If you guys have anything that you'd like to hear on Sundays, a specific thing about nature of reality, most of it's in my book, but I'm writing a second book because I'm always learning things, right? You're always being shown things that you were unaware of before. My energetic state now is so much different than it was even 6 months ago, because you're constantly, as long as you keep providing for your environment, constantly transmuting negative projections, you get so good at it's like exercising a muscle. Eventually nothing there's nothing that can affect you, right? It doesn't matter what's going on around you. It just doesn't matter. And the last thing that I want, the card just fell out. I'll be interested in what this is. The last thing that I want is to become a giant attractor of everything, right? I would love to partner with a lot of people that are going to naturally attract the rest of the population to make sure that we're all working at quality and just building. In a very short amount of time, we'd be at the stars. I mean, that's why this is a prison planet, because we've created this hierarchy of emotional states that people feed off of. I mean, people actually pay or sell emotional intelligence. I'm sorry, but you cannot sell emotional intelligence. It is a skill that you acquire over time by putting yourself in altruistic service to the people around you. That's it. That's how you gain it. You cannot sell that as a service. Can't do it. Time out. Take time out, right? So a lot of times that's what that means, right? Take a time out. Take time to meditate. Whatever it is you got to do to take a time out. But at the same time, you know, you don't want to lose your ability for empathy, because constantly being fed off of, you still have to be empathetic to the state that people are at, and at the same time blocking it out, right? So, and always be open to receive and just love unconditionally, because you gotta love the whole tree. I would be the first one to admit, it would be hardest to love the ones who know what they're doing, who are triggering people emotionally, intentionally, to gain, for material gain. That's very difficult to love those people unconditionally. But a lot of times, it's a product of the world that we live in, and they have their place. Everyone has a place. So you have to love the whole organism. It is what there'll always be a hierarchy like that within the hierarchies. But you can take yourself out of the hierarchy and just love people unconditionally. And yeah, I think you guys know. Love you guys. Have a wonderful day. And I'll probably do a reading tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. Love you guys. Have a great day.